Given the frustrations voiced by developers and property owners on the process of getting city approvals for projects or permits, what would you personally do to improve the process?
Customer service is a pet peeve of mine. And I think that when you come in as John Q. customer, you should be treated hands down the best you can possibly be treated. That's first. You have to talk to people. You have to communicate to people. You have to be the same. I mean, what I tell you, I tell you, I tell you, I tell you. It's always the same sentence to each person. And the customer is always right until they're wrong, but you don't have to be mean or nasty about it. And I hear that all the time. We go in there, we're treated like dirt. We're not treated well. That has to go away. Customer service is not, you're not born with it. It's trained, it's taught. And leadership is what teaches that. And so as mayor, it would be my responsibility to teach those people in those offices, this is how you have to talk to people. This is how you treat this situation. And then teach those leaders to teach their people, so that it becomes one steadfast, one flow for everybody.
I have a follow-up. Just, you mentioned the UDC.
Yes, sir.
Needs to be looked at.
Yes, sir.
UDC is just a document. How it's administered from the city. Do you see any changes there? I mean, one department, two departments, do you see a need to do anything in that regard to try to make the process better?
I do. I think that this is what we think it means. There's always a shade of gray. You have to look at it in each individual case. The UDC code was supposed to be a guide, not a concrete pillar. And unfortunately, it's gone away from that. And so because of that, it's created its issues. But we can look at the UDC code and go through it and dissect the pieces out of it. The planning division should do the planning, the permitting division should do the permitting, and the inspectors, but they all need to work together so that they're all always on the same page all the time.
Well, I think one of the things right off the bat that I found out is that we have really high turnover in that department. Talking with Charles Bloom, who is the development director, they were paying planners in the $30,000 range to start. And so these young men and women would get out of college, they would come to Cheyenne, they would get experience, and then within a year they would move 80 miles south and they'd take a job for $20,000 more and we'd have to start over. So it seems to me the development process should be paying for the development office. And I think that there's enough money coming in to do that. We just need to make sure, first of all, that if turnover is the problem that I'm led to believe it is, so you start with a process, somebody new comes, you have to start all over again. I think we need to fix that problem. I think that would be one. And then I think you're right, we do have some silo issues. There's a community down in Colorado who was facing similar problems, and they put all the people into one department that review. And I kind of liked the thought of that. COVID happened and I haven't been able to get down to visit with them to see how that works. But I did talk to them on the phone. And so the inspectors, the plan reviewers, they're all in one department under one person. And it just seems to me that if their goal is clearly stated and they're all working on the same team, that we might have some more success that way. But I think we need to look at everything. My friend who owns McDonald's was talking to me about timing, and so their goal is to get people through their drive-through. So they've looked at every piece of it. And so when you go up and you get your order, they don't give you the receipt when you pay. They give you the receipt at the other end because it takes 3 seconds to print that receipt, and you do that times every one. So they've gotten down to that level of detail in time. And if you can do that times 200 cars, how many more cars can you get a day? Well, I think we need to do the same thing with the development office. We need to look at the process and what everything takes time, what time does it take, and what time is necessary, and what things can we fix. So I'll give you a couple of examples right off the bat that I think are important. So when you do a preliminary plat right now, they're asking for all the stuff like on a final site plan. They're asking for elevations, they're asking for landscaping, a final landscape plan. And then they're calling you back and saying, well, I'm counting the trees and you're 3 trees short, and we're locked up on that in the preliminary plat time. Well, that doesn't make sense to me. A preliminary plat should be the 30,000-foot view. Can you do the drainage? Can you do the traffic? Just the basics. Does this site actually work? And there shouldn't be any sort of requirements to do a site plan at that point, I don't think. And then when we get into the final plat, then we get into the details and doing that. So instead of spending so much time up front doing that, and I think that would help staff too, if we're not so tied up, doing things early, then having to do the same exercise later, they'd have more time to work. So those are a couple things that I've learned so far in just talking to developers. But I think as we get into it more, I think we'll be able to find a lot of areas where we can save time and frustration. The last thing I would tell you is, what I keep hearing from developers is they ask a question and the answer comes back with a new requirement. And so they answer that and then it comes back with a new requirement. I think we need to be more upfront about what we want and not have that constant back and forth. I mean, there's always going to be some of those, but I think we can do a much better job of knowing what we want up front. It'll save time and it'll save cost, and it'll sure be a lot less frustrating.